Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm Parvin Moyne, and on behalf of the VOLS board and on behalf of Aiken Gump as an event co-chair, we welcome you. Today, we recognize how the pro bono community and New Yorkers more broadly have come together in response to the crises of the pandemic, the economy, and racial injustice this past year. And we honor 4 fabulous women leading pro bono efforts at their firms, as well as the pro bono stars recognized by VOLS this year for their service. Karen, today's event theme of New York Together speaks not only to our actions today, but also to the history of how New Yorkers have united to face many crises across generations. Share with us from your perspective about how today's moment connects us to our history as a pro bono community and through volunteers of legal service.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Parvin, and thank you, Aiken Gump, for being such a wonderful partner and collaborator with VOLS. As many of you may know, VOLS was born in the 1980s out of a crisis where legal aid was just simply reduced to virtually nothing, and VOLS came together as a result of a collaboration between the New York City Bar Association and large law firms in New York City, who joined to fill the void that was created. We provided services and continue to do so to indigent New Yorkers to address crises as they arise. In the 1980s and 90s, as HIV/AIDS took hold, VOLS was there to join with them, to help them to create wills, living wills, instructions, to really execute on their wishes and to preserve their rights. VOLS was there in the aftermath of 9/11 to help to foster the opportunities for people to get back on their feet. The same thing in 2008, and the fiscal crisis was there, created an unemployment project, which we then rejiggered and reintroduced in 2020 to address the pandemic. And of course, Hurricane Sandy, and then through this pandemic and continuing now. I think that history and where we are today also shows just how nimble and viable VOLS is.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for your leadership and for carrying the pro bono torch forward. And Aja, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to our community as the new executive director. Please tell us about the VOLS story this past year, and as we emerge from the pandemic and heed the lessons of 2020, what do you see as the focus in the recovery period and beyond?
Thank you so much, Parvin, for that warm welcome. And let me just start off by noting how incredibly thrilled and honored I feel to be taking the helm of Volunteers of Legal Service at this important juncture in time. Over the past year, our dedicated team has worked alongside our pro bono and community partners to continue to meet the legal services needs of thousands of New Yorkers. When the city shut down last spring, our team quickly pivoted to deliver our services remotely. We created new hotlines, we created new materials and videos for our website. We began to deliver web-based trainings as well. And in the face of emerging COVID-related legal challenges that were facing our communities across the city, we developed new initiatives addressing the needs of frontline and healthcare workers, small businesses, and the unemployed. In total, in 2020, 1,600 pro bono attorneys and non-lawyers, all of whom were trained and mentored by VOLS staff, contributed more than 18,000 hours of volunteer service, which is huge. And more than 6,000 low-income New Yorkers benefited from our services. And I think these numbers are just such a true testament to all of the incredible work and the impact that we can have when our staff attorneys, pro bono attorneys, and community partners come together. With that in mind, looking ahead, as the city reopens, we know that New Yorkers are going to continue to need our services. Small businesses are continuing to hang on by a thread and fighting for economic survival, and having advice and counsel and representation from an attorney can make a real difference. Our seniors, who have largely been isolated over the past year, are eager to re-engage with attorneys in order to address their life planning needs. Unemployment rates remain high, and we know that when the Excluded Workers Fund launches in a couple of months, there are going to be countless New Yorkers across the city who are going to need help navigating that program. Similarly, when school reopens in the fall, we know that families are going to be going to schools with a myriad of legal problems that they need help with, including potential eviction relief. And hopefully, with the new administration, we are optimistic about seeing some new forms and more permanent forms of immigration legal relief for our immigrant young New Yorkers. At the same time, there probably will be new and emerging needs that we can't yet anticipate, and very much look forward to VOLS being at the forefront of identifying those needs and developing initiatives to address those needs. And in all that we do, we remain very excited and committed to continue to partner with the pro bono community as well as the community-based organizations. And so on that note, I'm excited to introduce our program this afternoon, honoring and recognizing pro bono leadership over the past year. And let me start off by first congratulating our honorees, Erin Law from Morgan Stanley, Harlene Katzman from Simpson Thacher and Bartlett, and Aisha Greene Annie Mohan from Cadwalader. We are thrilled to be partnering with you and your colleagues and cannot thank you enough for all that you have done on behalf of the New York community over the past year. And we look forward to hearing from each of our honorees and our community partners in panel discussions about the legal needs of New Yorkers and how the pro bono and community groups have come together over the past year to address those needs. To kick off our program, we have a short video showcasing the work of the VOLS Microenterprise Project in partnership with the Department of Small Business Services, which will then be followed by a short panel discussion.
The Commercial Lease Assistance Program was started a few years ago by the city's Department of Small Business Services, providing free legal services to small business owners who would otherwise not be able to afford an attorney, in helping them deal with transactions or disputes with property owners that they're going to be leasing for their business. Edison is a small entrepreneur, and he found a location in Brooklyn that was really suitable for his business, which is a cafe. He reached out for assistance regarding negotiating the lease terms for his commercial lease, and was able to connect with me specifically.
La abogada nos ayudó muchísimo. Ella hizo todos los papeleos para aquí, para el negocio, habló con la dueña de casa. Ella se encargó de todo prácticamente. Yo solo tuve que ir y firmar y ya ella me explicó.
Small businesses are the heartbeat of New York City, and without them, the economy really struggles and might fail. Yeah, language access is extremely important for small business owners and just in the population in general in New York City. So having access to either an attorney that has capabilities of speaking another language, or having the communications translated through an interpreter is important, and it is a service that all organizations under this CLA program provide.
Y dando gracias a Dios tenemos clientes que ya son, que vienen todos los días. Se siente bien porque ya nos sentimos todos como familia. A veces ya ni necesitamos preguntarle al cliente porque ya sabemos qué es lo que quiere. Lo que he querido hacer hace muchos años lo estoy haciendo ahora y me está yendo bien.
Good afternoon. I am Arthur Katz, Director of the Microenterprise Project at VOLS. The video that we all just saw is of our Microenterprise Project client, Edison Arrieta of Hi Hello Crepes in Brooklyn. And it's a great example of how VOLS builds from our partnerships with the City of New York's Commercial Lease Assistance Program to provide additional pro bono assistance on another commercial matter during the pandemic for small business clients. Today's first mini panel honors Morgan Stanley's Erin J law and features several of VOLS's partners responding to the economic crisis facing our city. To introduce Erin, I'm proud to have and welcome the founder of Bloomberg's Pro Bono program, now the company's head of legal in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, Valerie Borden-Farkas. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Arthur. It is a pleasure to join the VOLS community today to honor my friend and mentor, Erin Law, and the pro bono work she leads at Morgan Stanley. In response to the pandemic this past year, Erin's team has taken on pro bono cases with VOLS to advise small businesses as they work to keep their operations afloat, to represent unemployed workers, to ensure they receive the government benefits they deserve, and to provide free life planning documents to seniors so that their rights are protected and their wishes are carried out. And that's just with VOLS. Erin is known across the pro bono community for her tireless dedication and passion to helping those in need through her work with a wide range of legal services organizations. And the pro bono program that she built and continues to lead at Morgan Stanley is quite simply the gold standard within the in-house legal community. About 5 years ago, we launched a formal pro bono program at Bloomberg. And in the year leading up to that launch, I set out to design a program, but I had no idea where to start. So I just began networking with law firms and legal services organizations and other in-house legal teams to get advice on how to even get started. Who do I need to talk to? And I continued to hear the same refrain. Oh, you need to speak with Erin Law at Morgan Stanley. So that is how I came to know Erin, and we've had many roles together over the years. She is a true leader and mentor to those of us who follow in her footsteps as we continue to develop robust corporate pro bono programs. For most of our companies, these programs didn't exist in any formal form for the, in the last decade. So a lot of progress has been made. Erin is extremely generous with her time and expertise, always quick to provide guidance and encouragement to the in-house community. So her impact truly extends far beyond the clients that she directly serves, which is so critical, and the program that she leads at Morgan Stanley. So with that, let's bring in Erin. Erin, thank you so much for everything you do, and congratulations on your award today. Please tell us a bit about your partnership with VOLS and the work that you're doing at Morgan Stanley to respond to the economic crisis facing New Yorkers.
Thank you, Valerie. Wow, that is just so lovely. Thank you so much for your comments. On behalf of Morgan Stanley, thank you, VOLS, for this award. I am truly humbled and honored. During the COVID pandemic, I'm just so proud of the way dozens of Morgan Stanley lawyers immediately raised their hands and asked how they could help other New Yorkers, and did so while adjusting to working from home and all of the challenges that this unique time presented to us. In particular, we took on cases as part of the Small Business Legal Relief Alliance, which was newly formed in partnership with VOLS, Strzok, and over 24 law firms, companies, and legal service organizations. I especially want to call out Kevin Kernan at Strzok, who has been such a mentor to me and who time and time again has brought together the pro bono community at moments of crisis, including to support small businesses after 9/11 and this past year during COVID. It is clear that pro bono legal assistance can make a difference, and this effort to assist small businesses did so. Through this project, I had lawyers volunteer to do pro bono work who had never done so before, but they knew they could be of service. And at Morgan Stanley, we have so many transactional attorneys, real estate lawyers who knew they could use their commercial skills to be of service. Many clients received the tools they needed to successfully renegotiate leases and to obtain loans and other information. And you're going to hear about some of those stories in this panel. For other clients, the answers were disappointing, but those clients still had the opportunity to receive excellent, free, and compassionate legal advice. As the person at Morgan Stanley with responsibility for the pro bono program, which I could not do without the support of the legal management at Morgan Stanley, I know that each pro bono encounter positively impacted the lawyers who were able to feel that they were helping. Another positive outcome from this pro bono work was that it enabled us to bring even more Morgan Stanley lawyers and employees into the tent of pro bono work, either through the provision of translation services or more recently as businesses are beginning to open back up and think beyond crisis mode by bringing in some of our front office business colleagues to consult on questions about business modeling and long-term planning. Being able to bring all of these smart, talented people to the table to help other New Yorkers is one aspect of this work of which I am exceptionally proud. My team was also able to advise New Yorkers through the VOLS Unemployed Workers Project, which since last March has served over 1,300 New Yorkers and helped those workers to secure over $1 million in unemployment benefits through claims or on appeal. We have a sizable group of employment lawyers at Morgan Stanley, and a number of them stepped up to be trained by VOLS and immediately took on cases on behalf of unemployed workers entitled to benefits. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize my co-honorees and outstanding pro bono champions, Harlene Katzman, Aisha Greene, and Annie Mohan. Harlene and I worked together to sponsor an Equal Justice Works Fellow and have done so for many years. And Annie, Cadwalader, and VOLS have been great partners in a project to help seniors and veterans in need of life planning services. And what a welcome from Valerie Farkas. I am indeed so humbled. What an honor to be recognized in all of your company. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, and congratulations again, Erin. Every day at VOLS, we are advocating for small business clients, the majority of whom are women, immigrants, or New Yorkers of color. And I now want to bring into our conversation here two leaders, two strong and steadfast partners of the VOLS Microenterprise Project, two people who are fierce advocates for small business owners in their own rights. Delia Wusi, who is the director of the Women's Business Center at Business Outreach Center Network in Brooklyn, and Commissioner John L. Doris is the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Delia, first, could you share with us a little bit, what's it been like from your perspective as a community partner, as a community organization working with small business owners in crisis over the past year plus, and what's the role of volunteer attorneys?
Sure. Thank you, Arthur. First off, I'd like to thank you for having me here. I'm honored to join today's panel and to talk about the perspective of BACnet and our clients. So just a little bit about BAC. We are an organization over 20 years old, and we work with small businesses throughout the city. I oversee our the Small Business Administration's Women's Business Center. And I do remember at the beginning of the pandemic, right when word was coming out that things were getting ready to shut down, we had our last team meeting in person. And my boss, the executive director of BACnet, Nancy Karen, told all of us in that room that you just wait, we will become frontliners. And I remember in my head, I'm like, well, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a doctor. But as the weeks wore on and we were getting calls inundated by small business owners, I finally understood what she meant. A perspective, or one that always rings or comes to mind, is a very dear client of mine. Her name is Lacey Chisholm, and she's the owner of Fit for Dance, which is a wonderful Zumba studio in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. So Lacey is an amazing gem of a woman. She's a former New York City DOE teacher, and I have been her business counselor since she started years ago. And so Lacey had recently transitioned from a smaller studio to a bigger studio, also in the Crown Heights neighborhood, and spent a lot of money, renovating and, upgrading her studio space. Then the pandemic happened. I remember Lacey calling me immediately. She's like, Delia, I have no idea what to do. Throughout this, I've been paying my rent on time, but I cannot do it anymore. I knew immediately who to call, which was Arthur Katz. I knew his team at VOLS, and I knew their commercial lease program would take care of her, and that they did. Throughout every step of the way, Lacey would text me, she would call me. We were in an accountability group, and she consistently told me just the amount of support that these lawyers were providing her. And so from that perspective, that's just some of the great work that VOLS and the commercial lease program has done for clients like ours. And our work with VOLS is made possible in part because of the City of New York is standing by our side. I'd now like to introduce Commissioner John L. Doris. Commissioner, please tell us more about the city's support for commercial tenants and how you're supporting small businesses during the crisis and recovery to come.
Thanks so much, Delia. I'm excited to join you all today. To give a brief overview, our commercial lease assistance program, widely known as CLA. Our CLA program started in 2018 through a partnership with Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A and VOLS, and also Take Root Justice, to provide business owners with free legal services for commercial lease-related issues. Since then, our CLA partners have provided services to over 750 businesses, of which 60% are located in the outer boroughs and 70% identify as Black, Latinx, or Asian. They have worked side by side on navigating new lease contracts, lease renewals, and back rent negotiations, and acting as a mediator on landlord harassment and breach of contract issues. The pandemic highlighted the disparities of economic security across New York City neighborhoods. And since last March, many minority-owned small businesses were disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and voiced a need for increased legal services. The mayor actively listened to our small business community and made it a priority to increase outreach and service delivery to New York City hardest hit neighborhoods. As a result, we've increased investment in the CLA program by $10.4 million over the next 2 years. I want to thank the VOLS team and my co-panelists today, Valerie Farkas, Delia Awusi, Arthur Katz, and of course, our honoree, Erin Law. The city needs and appreciates the support of our pro bono community partners more than ever before today. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us today as the Development Chair for the Volunteers of Legal Services Board of Directors.
And hi, Abja. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for joining us this year as our new Executive Director. You joined at a pretty exciting moment. And now we're all getting ready to face the post-pandemic period. And we're very excited about serving the community. Can you tell us what we should have in mind as we enter this new phase in the recovery?
Sure. So as I think about this new phase, I first just reflect on this past year and knowing what an incredibly challenging year it has been for all of us, whether professionally or personally. I think we have all had days where it's been difficult to get up, to get through the day. But despite all these challenges that we have all faced, it's been really incredible to see how New Yorkers have really stepped up during the pandemic, whether helping a family member or a neighbor in need or providing legal assistance who are in need of access to justice. New Yorkers have really showed a sense of community and team spirit over the past year. And my hope is that as we now move into this recovery period, that we maintain that sense of community spirit and that maintain that sense of helping out one another, and that we work together over the coming year to ensure that every New Yorker has access to justice that we all deserve.
Thank you, Abja. That's really inspiring. And that is our mission and our goal. And now I hope we will all, as a group here at this event, be similarly inspired. And you know what's coming. Please take out your phones. We're going to honor VOLS and our community response to help New York City recover from the crises we still face. You can donate on the VOLS website at volsprobono.org. But here's the instructions for texting. Simply text VOLS, V-O-L-S, to 970-840-9000. You can add your pledge amount and your name, or you can make it anonymous. And again, text VOLS, V-O-L-S, with your pledge amount and your name to 970-840-9000. And I'm going to give you a minute and we'll see the pledges start to roll in. Let's just watch. So this is very exciting. We're just getting started here. The fundometer is going to remain up through the evening. Please, please give generously and support our important work for the community.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Kempner, Legal Director here at Volunteers of Legal Service. Today, we're so pleased to honor Aisha Greene and Annie Mohan from Cadwalader, Wickersham, and Taft for their partnership with VOLS. Together, including active pro bono service by VOLS board member and Cadwalader partner Jason Halper, we have provided life planning services for seniors, older veterans, and frontline and healthcare workers during the pandemic. In this segment of the program, we will hear from Aisha and Annie, as well as from community partners, including Alana Dunner, Executive Director of Riverstone Life Services in Washington Heights, and from Commissioner James Hendon from the New York City Department of Veterans Services. To kick off our conversation, I now welcome Cadwalader's Managing Partner, Patrick Quinn. Pat, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Pete. Cadwalader is proud to partner with Volunteers for Legal Services, and I am particularly proud to help honor two outstanding colleagues who are true leaders at our firm. Pro bono services is an incredibly important element of who we are at Cadwalader, and there are a number of reasons for that. There are the obvious reasons, like the professional and personal fulfillment that comes from doing this work and impacting people's lives in such a personal and tangible and often transformational way. And then there are some less obvious reasons, like the way that our pro bono efforts fit so beautifully and seamlessly together with our diversity and inclusion efforts. We believe that we can't be successful at becoming the diverse firm that we all want to be unless we create the professional environment that we all want to be part of, whether we are diverse or non-diverse. Today, VOLS is honoring two of the people who are at the center of that nexus of pro bono work and diversity and inclusion at Cadwalader. Aisha Greene is our Director of Attorney Development and Training, and she is also our Head of Diversity and Inclusion. So Aisha has discovered that being exceptional is sometimes rewarded with ever-increasing responsibility. Aisha transitioned years ago from being a practicing attorney to her current role, and we are very fortunate that she did. Annie Mohan is our Manager of Pro Bono and Corporate Social Responsibility. Now, the term I hear most often to describe Annie is rock star, beloved both within Cadwalader and also by our clients with whom she interacts on pro bono partnerships. We are so fortunate to have both Aisha and Annie on our team at Cadwalader, and we congratulate them both for this honor. I will now hand off the conversation to Aisha, who will tell us more about bringing together pro bono, diversity and inclusion, and professional development at Cadwalader.
Thank you, Pat. It is so easy to do this work with your wonderful leadership and support. We are honored today to accept this award on behalf of the dozen attorneys at our firm who did not consider it a robbery of their time to be active and dedicated pro bono citizens. Nearly 1 year ago, we started a conversation at the VOLS Summit where we discussed the intersection of pro bono, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the development of attorneys. Our affinity networks at the firm have always been deeply involved in pro bono initiatives and look for ways to service the community. In our roles, we're able to support them through a collaborative pro bono clinic model where the goal is to give back in a meaningful and impactful way, offer mentoring and leadership opportunities, and help to support the talent development of our attorneys. Our training and development department, pro bono department, and diversity and equity inclusion team are all one department. We are not siloed. We attend each other's events and meetings, have a shared department calendar, regularly update each other at meetings, and also pro bono is on the agenda at all of our affinity network meetings. When the opportunity was proposed to work with low-income seniors and veterans to prepare their life planning documents, our Cadwalader Veterans Network members were motivated and activated to do the work and had the opportunity to partner with our clients at Morgan Stanley. As a result of the wonderful training provided by VOLS, we were able to pivot during the pandemic. At the height of the pandemic, during one of our meetings with our Black and Latino Association Affinity Group, we discussed a New York Times article about healthcare workers who were in need of life planning documents. This resonated with many of our members who had family on the front line. Given our prior work with veterans, we were able to quickly activate and represent healthcare workers. The benefit is win-win all around. Our attorneys are receiving wonderful training, fulfill the need of our community, and we're supporting our affinity network's desire to have an impact on the community. Tell us more about the pro bono work itself with our attorneys and clients. I would like to turn it over to her now, to my amazing colleague, to discuss the pro bono work and the issues we faced during the pandemic.
Thank you, Aisha, and thank you to our friends at VOLS for this honor. So not many people know this, but Cadwalader's relationship with VOLS dates back to almost 2 decades ago when its then executive director, the late Bill Dean, reached out to me to introduce himself. He had heard that I was new to the pro bono scene and in true Bill Dean fashion wanted to be of assistance. And I guess the rest, as they say, is history. Since then, our attorneys have worked with clients from various projects at VOLS. Most recently, the firm has dedicated a significant amount of time and resources to the COVID-19 Frontline and Healthcare Workers Initiative that Aisha just mentioned. Like most firms, Cadwalader saw a surge in interest in pro bono and community service in the past year. Folks felt helpless sitting at home watching the world being devastated by this health crisis. My inbox was flooded with emails from people asking what they could do to help. And early on, navigating this new remote environment was challenging. There were so many questions. How can we serve our clients without meeting with them? What about clients who had pending court dates and deadlines? How are legal services groups connecting with their clients with so many restrictions in place? What were the new legal needs arising from the pandemic? Who was assessing those needs and trying to find solutions to them? So again, lots of questions, but legal services providers like VOLS stepped up and did not let the challenges deter them. And after months of planning, VOLS launched its COVID-19 Frontline and Healthcare Workers Initiative to directly serve those who were putting their lives on the line to serve others. Cadwalader was proud to be one of the firms leading that effort, with our private client group and members of our Black and Latino Association taking ownership of the project at the firm. As always, VOLS provided comprehensive training and support for this new initiative. And at Cadwalader, we were fortunate enough to have had several attorneys previously trained by VOLS to help low-income seniors and veterans prepare their life planning documents. And so because of this, as Aisha mentioned, we had attorneys who were ready and immediately available to help out on this COVID-related project. I would be remiss if I ended without recognizing and congratulating my fellow honorees, Aisha, of course, whom I have the pleasure of working and sometimes playing with every day, Harlene Katzman of Simpson Thacher, who is such an inspiration and role model to our group of law firm pro bono leaders, and Erin Law of Morgan Stanley, with whom Cadwalader has been partnering for some of this life planning work. That partnership began with what I believe might be one of Erin's and my favorite pro bono events, a day-long Veterans Life Planning Clinic hosted by the Cadwalader Veterans Network, where attorneys teamed up to help the most captivating group of veterans that I've ever met. And our attorneys reported back that serving veterans who had fought for our nation's freedom was one of the most rewarding things they had ever done. Since that clinic in 2019, we have continued to partner on that work, only now in a remote setting. I'd like to end by saying hats off to VOLS for its phenomenal work serving New Yorkers in need.
Thanks so much, Pat, Aisha, Annie. Cadwalader has been such a great partner for our veterans, for our seniors, and for our frontline workers. I now want to bring in 2 guests to our conversation to bring community perspective. Senior centers have been closed all year and are now just starting to open up. And Riverstone Life Services has been one of our critical partners. They've been hosting our legal clinics for years and years and continue to promote our legal services to their clients. And so I want to welcome Alana Dunner, who's the executive director of Riverstone. Alana, can you please share with us how the legal services that VOLS provides to your clients helps make an impact for them and the Washington Heights community?
Certainly, thank you. And I'm so pleased to be here to tell you a little bit about how important VOLS has been to Riverstone and the clients. Riverstone Senior Life Services is a multi-service social service agency with a host of lots of different services. But we are so lucky to have VOLS come into our agency once a month to provide individual legal assistance to the seniors in our community. And that could include healthcare, helping somebody with healthcare proxy, living wills, power of attorney, wills. And then, of course, some of the more difficult issues are evictions when our clients are faced with legal concerns with housing. VOLS certainly, helps them walk through that process, which is very difficult. It really is a very important service for people who would not otherwise be able to afford an attorney. And they come once a month. We know ahead of time, seniors schedule appointments. And fortunately, we also have a bilingual attorney to address, to work with the people who primarily speak Spanish. So it's really an important added service to all the other work that we do. And we're very grateful that they come in and help in a way that our members would not get the help otherwise. Thank you very much, VOLS.
Thank you, Alana, for your kind remarks and for joining us today. And now I'd like to bring in another community partner of ours, the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Veteran Services, James Hendon. Thank you, Commissioner Hendon, for joining us today. Please share with us your perspective on the importance of life planning and legal services for New York City's older veterans.
Well, Peter, when I think about life planning, first and foremost, I just have to, give credit where it's due as far as what VOLS has done for years now, helping us connect our veterans who need that life planning and legal services to volunteers of legal services and to your team. I just want to extend that thanks there. Speaking of the devil, it really comes down to age and the financial situation for our veterans. Have to emphasize that 71% of all New York City veterans are 55 or older. About 30% of our people have fought in Vietnam, 11% Korea, 6% World War II. And when you look at those numbers, the median age of a Vietnam veteran is 74. According to the CDC, as of last year, the life expectancy in this country is 77.8. So we've got many people who are at this point where they need to talk to someone, if they've not already, about issues surrounding end-of-life planning and just the legal concerns of it. And the other piece of it, financially, the median income for our veterans is $41,166 in the city of New York. And so you can tell yourself that left of that number, and even to the right of it, we've got many people who use and can have value from the services you provide. Another thing that has to be said here, it's not just about the veterans, it's also about their families. Oftentimes, it's not a situation where VOLS or our pro bono legal supporters are dealing with just that veteran, but you may be dealing with a child, a grandchild, a spouse. And so there's this prism through which you're working to operate to help our people help themselves be right with different legal matters. And it touches something else too. Statistically speaking, roughly 3 out of 10 veterans nationwide self-identifies as such. So take the VA, for example. Of those who are eligible for VA healthcare, roughly 29% are actually enrolled, as an example. We've got case after case of veterans who work at a job. Their coworkers don't know they're a veteran. Veterans who attend a school, their peers don't know they're a veteran. Same thing even in families where you have loved ones who don't know that loved one is served. And so when I look at what you do, oftentimes the thing that brings our people from darkness into light is saying, I need some sort of legal support. I have an issue coming up for which I don't know where to go. I need to talk to somebody. And I haven't activated this veteran identity in so long, but I will activate it now because I need someone to help me. And so the second and third order nature of what VOLS does is we bring people from darkness to light. And once you start working with them, we then continue to work with them on issues ranging from health care. Do you have access to VA healthcare? Housing. How's everything going with your housing situation? Employment. What's going on with you as far as a job? Even getting them access to a VA pension or disability. Do you have a service-connected disability where we can help you remit payment from the federal government? And so the beautiful thing about what you do is it creates a feedback loop that helps all of us when it comes to being of value to our veterans and their families. And I'd be remiss if I didn't put within this the backdrop of COVID. To do all this in an environment where, when we look at New York City, 951,000 cases, 108,000 hospitalizations, 33,313 deaths, to have that as the backdrop, yet to still grind it out through these times, and to be of value to our people is something you just can't put a value to. And so to you and to all who are here today, I just say thank you so much for your support, you know, to VOLS, to Aisha and Annie, who are being honored, and to all who are just here right now. We count you as one of us in the foxhole to make things better for our veterans. I wish I could tell you it's going to get easier and that these needs will decline, but they won't. I see them only increasing. So it's all the more important why we value your leadership and your friendship. And so, you know, that being said, I just want to thank you so much to VOLS for inviting me to join today, and to Pat, Aisha, Annie, Alana, Pete, and all the entire pro bono community. You know, keep doing what you do, and we can't have enough words to say how grateful we are for how much you uplift our city's veteran community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Collier, Pro Bono Counsel at Freed Frank, and I am so honored to be part of this program today. The first person from the community who reached out to me after I became Pro Bono Counsel was Bill Dean from VOLS. He called me out of the blue, asked me if I would have coffee, and then he told me all about himself and his life and why he ended up being so passionate about VOLS and its mission. I ended up working with VOLS ever since, and we work with VOLS to this day. I'm especially delighted to be introducing Harlene Katzman, Pro Bono Counsel and Director at Simpson Thacher. Harlene has been a leader in the pro bono community from the moment that she joined us and joined Simpson. She's been working passionately in so many different areas, and also in immigration, which is, I think, what her focus has been at VOLS all this time. Harlene, maybe you can describe for us some of your work with VOLS and the firm's work with VOLS.
Sure. Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you to VOLS for hosting this terrific event and this great panel. Simpson Thacher has been working with VOLS since before my time. I started with the firm in 2008. But our relationship with VOLS goes back probably to the earlier mid-2000s. And we started with the VOLS Children's Project. We were running a clinic, a monthly clinic at Bushwick High School, which at the time was a gigantic high school. It has since been broken up into 4 separate high schools, but you can imagine how big it was. It took up a full city block. It was huge. And we were in there month after month doing a clinic. And that clinic was really to deal with the day-to-day issues that came up for a low-income community, which was the primary group that went to school there. So it was a lot of housing and benefits work. But over the years, as we kept doing the clinic year after year, immigration work became more and more prominent. We saw more and more immigrants who were showing up at the clinic wanting advice on how they could potentially get status. And so the clinic really shifted for us. So by the time 2012 rolled around and President Obama had signed an executive order creating the DACA program, and DACA is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It is a temporary form of immigration relief for certain immigrants brought to the United States as children, and it provides 2 years worth of work authorization. By the time DACA came to be in 2012, we had already been counseling, these kids that we call dreamers who wanted to go to college and wanted to work, and they didn't qualify for federal loans because they weren't citizens. And so we had already collected, unbeknownst to us, all of these potential DACA clients by doing this work at Bushwick High School. So we started doing DACA applications in 2012, and we did them every single year. We're doing them to this day. A lot of them are renewals. The initial stop for a period of time over the past 4 years. But we have literally had hundreds of DACA clients, and we did this work, hand in hand with VOLS. And I give a lot of credit to Liz Marcucci and Molly Coe, who are former immigration attorneys at VOLS, who really taught me how to do this work and who were instrumental in building this project with us.
That's fantastic. And you and I have worked together on immigration matters over the years. I also run the immigration docket in Freed Frank's pro bono program. And we've discussed the challenges over the years with working with this community, with identifying people in the community who need help, with getting them to trust their lawyers and work with their lawyers, and the myriad of issues. And I wonder if any issues have come up for you in this past year around the pandemic, working with this community.
They have, and we really have talked about this in depth, and I really appreciate having you to talk to about this, Jen. So I filed the notices of appeal for almost every one of our DACA clients, and I've met a lot of them. And there were two significant challenges that I really noticed come up over the past year or so. One is many of my DACA clients lost their jobs as a result of the shutdown orders during COVID. And that's because a lot of them were working in the service industry, they were working in restaurants. They just didn't survive that initial shutdown. And a lot of them were working their way through school, through college. Those plans had to be put on hold. A lot of them were, taking care of relatives. I mean, I think it was really hard for that community. The second challenge for the DACA clients, and this was particular to the broader immigration community, I think, was just the extreme fear and paranoia that a lot of our immigrant clients felt from really statements and policies that were made by the prior administration regarding immigration. And I just think it was incredibly stressful for them. So I noticed that as well. And this really brings me to our third panelist. I'm really happy that Adrian Palma has joined us. Adrian is the pro bono coordinator at Aiken Gump. And I met Adrian, we have worked together with Aiken and with Adrian in the immigration community for a long time. And I have worked with Adrian on some DACA specific projects. And I just recently found out that Adrian is in DACA status. And so I was hoping that he could tell us a little bit about the challenges from his perspective.
Harlene and Jennifer, it is a pleasure and an honor to be on this panel with you. As you so eloquently said, Harlene, there are many challenges that the DACA recipients and the general undocumented youth community have faced over this last year. Unemployment, of course, is one of the biggest, as you mentioned, because of the orders to shut down restaurants and service jobs. I am also I'm a DACA recipient, as a dreamer, as is a term that's heard in the news. I was born in Hidalgo, El Parral, Chihuahua, Mexico, and I immigrated to the United States, to El Paso, Texas, at the age of 6. And Harlene, like you said, fear and paranoia really is a prevalent characteristic that marks the life of undocumented youth and of DACA recipients. Growing up in El Paso, I would drive along the highway, and next to me was a Border Patrol car. My neighbors were Border Patrol agents. There was an instance when I was about to fly to Ithaca, New York to start my undergraduate career at Cornell University, and TSA and Border Patrol stopped me, and they asked me if I was a US citizen, if I have a US ID. I had to respond no, but at that point I was in risk of deportation. And as a high school student, I wish I would have met someone like you, Harlene, and had known an organization like VOLS that was at my high school to give me instruction and resources on how to overcome the anxiety that really overtook a lot of the big part of my high school years. But with that said, I really have been privileged during the pandemic to be in this role at Aiken Gump, to be in a full-time job. I did not lose my job myself. And I learned through this pandemic that I could not waste the time and the resources that I was exposed to through my role at Aiken Gump. So for that reason, we began to think of ways that we can and really think of innovative ways that we can remotely help dreamers and the DACA community to expand access to justice and for the community. And it really has been a pleasure to work with you, Harlene, over these last couple months to just identify ways that we could expand pro bono legal services to the broader DACA community in the United States, not just in those markets in which our law firms operate, but in rural areas where DACA applicants and undocumented youth really are living in fear.
Well, you know, I've had so many issues come up this year around remote work and my client community. You know, people don't all have the same access to technology that we are so lucky to have working at law firms, and with the bandwidth and the number of devices that we're all using to work and go to school from home. Some clients can't get on video at all. Some clients can't scan a document. We've been FedExing back and forth, all kinds of problems that we've had. Have you guys been working on a way to really reach out and kind of change the game in working with remote clients?
So Adrian, Tip just had a little bit to tell you what we've been doing. And I'll say that there really were some silver linings to come out of the global pandemic. And I think one of the best was our lawyers' comfort level in providing legal advice in a remote landscape. And so taking our cue from that, our firm has commissioned a custom platform that will allow us to collaborate better with clients when we can't be in the same room, and to partner with some of our billable clients to do this work. And the goal is really so that we can reach more people who are further out in the community, not sitting next to a lawyer, and who really do need these services. Our platform was absolutely inspired by Aiken Gump. They did it first. When they pitched it to me and for Simpson Thacher, I was really blown away by the scope that the reach that platform was going to have. And I really do think that it's the future of this type of work. So Adrian, I thank you and your colleagues for that. And I'm very excited to share our platform and get it going.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us and with the larger community, because I hope that we can all follow Simpson and Aiken in leveraging these resources to reach out further into the community. And I think although this has been a really short conversation, I'm sure that everybody watching now understands why Harlene Katzman got a Pro Bono Leadership Award. Congratulations, Harlene.
Thank you so much.
Hello again, everyone. Thank you to all of our panelists. I hope everyone found the conversations that we just heard as inspiring as I did. And thank you to everyone who has contributed so far. We greatly, greatly appreciate your support, and it will make such a huge difference as VOLS continues to work towards meeting the civil legal services needs of all New Yorkers.
And I'm just here for another pitch for everyone to pull together in this VOLS community and support this crucial work. You've heard how VOLS brings together different stakeholders in different communities to serve the neediest populations of New York and further social and racial justice at a crucial moment. It would be great if everyone here could pitch in. We have a lot of firms that are contributing, but there are individuals within those firms. I personally give as well as my firm giving. So anybody who would like to, the number I think is still on the screen. You could text, you could do it on the website, but please help us keep building these programs and serving the community. And I'm going to turn this program over to John Kiernan, one of our great pro bono leaders in New York and a longtime leader of VOLS, who is going to do a tribute to two really amazing people who were instrumental in building and making VOLS what it is today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jeff, for that kind introduction. This year, the VOLS family and the larger New York community legal family lost two great lawyers and great men and servants, Mike Cooper and Bill Dean, whom we would like to pause to remember today. Mike Cooper was the epitome of the fully realized lawyer, formidable and renowned as a litigator and trial lawyer, but equally recognized for his public service and his passionate and tireless efforts to improve the lives of others who could never afford to pay him in ways that highlighted the enormity of his heart, along with his tremendous intellect and energy. Mike was particularly remarkable in his solicitude for the vulnerable and for folks who had made mistakes and desperately needed a second chance. To offer a tribute to Mike, we're fortunate to have with us Suhana Khan, Mike's fellow litigation partner and friend from Sullivan and Cromwell. Suhana?
Thanks, John. There just isn't enough time during this program to gush about Mike's long list of achievements, awards, and recognitions. That would take days. And I could also spend hours and hours going on and on and on about Mike's legal acumen. When I first joined Sullivan and Cromwell, all of the associates had heard about the brilliant Mike Cooper. And I experienced this firsthand when I worked with him for the first time on the litigation arising from the 2004 merger between JP Morgan and Bank One. From that point on, admittedly, I was a little intimidated and definitely in awe. I realized that Mike was someone who was fiercely dedicated, not only to achieving the best results for his clients, but also mentoring younger lawyers like me at the time and supporting their advancement. I was so fortunate to have Mike as a mentor. Although he was so busy, he always made time for me and was genuinely interested in how I was doing both professionally and personally. And he similarly dedicated such time to many other lawyers at the firm. And through his example, Mike inspired me to take on pro bono cases on behalf of those looked upon most unfavorably. Not only did Mike passionately advocate for civil rights and legal services for the poor, he worked tirelessly to assist lawyers facing disciplinary actions, to give convicted felons a second chance, and to secure the release of a Guantanamo detainee who had been held for years without any charges. Mike also offered invaluable support when I represented an Alabama death row inmate for over 15 years. We all miss Mike. Although he's not here with us today, we can still honor his memory. And we can do this by continuing Mike's courageous fight to protect the rights of those neglected, scorned, and most vulnerable.
Thanks, Suhana, for those terrific perspectives on an extraordinary man and great friend. Bill Dean, who led VOLS as its executive director for 25 years and defined its role in the New York City community, learned somehow along the way in that adventure that among his many extraordinary gifts, he had a particular one that would become the core of his legacy. That was the gift of ability to persuade busy people to give their time and energy to help fellow New Yorkers facing tremendous difficulties. When you hear people talk about Bill, you will soon notice how often they start with an anecdote about how Bill grabbed them in an unguarded moment and then persuaded them to commit themselves to helping a person in need. Hundreds and ultimately thousands of times he did this, leveraging his natural and lifelong heartfelt empathy for people facing difficulties into what sometimes felt like a movement of volunteer pro bono soldiers. How did he do it? It wasn't so complicated for him on a personal level. The needs were obvious, and he viewed as equally obvious both the human and professional obligations to help with the people he asked for help, and the consistent conclusions of those volunteers that their own lives, as well as the people they helped, were enriched by saying yes. As much as he was a throwback gentleman, gentle in his speech and manner, and preternaturally kind, unhurried, and wry, his conviction about the importance of volunteering legal services and otherwise helping the needy was like steel. For years, Bill's regular New York Law Journal column on pro bono work and the VOLS law firm pledge he created were in all of New York City the most consistent and powerful public exhortations to private New York lawyers to do more. The successful urgings over the years made his voice seem to be everywhere as a steady inspiration to lawyers to pursue their better selves through acts of personal generosity. What a legacy that is. It is ultimately the root of the continuing VOLS mission we celebrate today. To honor that legacy, today we are dedicating our Pro Bono Stars recognition to Bill's memory by designating it appropriately as the Dean's List, as a way to perpetuate his animating spirit in the next generation of volunteers in service to the community in our city. Many, probably most of the members of the Dean's List who will be placed on it in the years to come will never have met Bill. But when you feel a volunteer culture of commitment to pro bono in your firm or in your community, at least some of what you feel is the continuing spirit of Bill. We will also be launching a fundraising campaign to dedicate a virtual plaque in Bill's honor to help recognize outstanding volunteer lawyers for many years to come in service to our community through VOLS. Before we hear next about this year's Dean's List, please join me in a brief moment of silence to remember our friends Mike Cooper and Bill Dean. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tommy Lopez, an associate at Covington and Burling, and a longtime volunteer with the VOLS Children's Project and Immigration Project. It is my sincere pleasure and honor to help inaugurate VOLS's new pro bono recognition program. This year's Dean's List in memory of Bill Dean.
And I am Denise Gerbis. I'm a mid-level associate at Paul Weiss and a longtime pro bono volunteer with the VOLS Unemployed Workers Project. The Unemployed Workers Project was originally formed in response to the 2008 financial crisis and then relaunched last March when the pandemic caused massive and widespread closures and unemployment. I'm proud to be a part of the Dean's List and to help recognize my colleagues. Tommy, tell us a bit about your work with the VOLS Children's Project and this year's award winners.
Sure, thanks, Denise. I've been involved in VOLS's Children's Project since 2016, principally by staffing the pro bono legal clinic located at KIPP Academy in the South Bronx. Over my almost 5 years volunteering there, we've helped underserved families meet their legal needs, whether it was concerning immigration, landlord-tenant issues, family matters, or public benefits questions. In each of our cases, our team worked closely with the VOLS staff in order to support our subject matter expertise and provide the best legal advice to these families as possible. And I was incredibly grateful personally to be able to lean upon VOLS's team during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic with respect to complex cases that concern housing, small business issues, and estate or probate matters. This year from Cravath, we recognized Amanda Lamoth-Cadet, Natalie Lee, Garrett Biederman, and Mark Davies for their work assisting an immigrant client who was being treated for chronic kidney disease. Because of COVID-related family court closures, the client was initially not able to access a guardianship proceeding that would make possible access to a kidney transplant. The Cravath attorneys demonstrated to the court exceptional circumstances, forcing them to hear the case. And they went further, obtaining special findings that enabled the client to apply for special immigrant juvenile status, which allowed him to obtain legal status that will allow him to gain access to medical insurance for his condition. From Sullivan and Cromwell, VOLS recognizes Tim Weinstein for 5 years of service to clients with families suffering from asthma through AIR NYC. He has advocated on their behalf, both in and outside of the court, assisted them to secure response from landlords and forced them to make legally required repairs in their apartments to create more healthy living conditions. VOLS's support for healthy families extends beyond the Children's Project. This year from Morrison and Forster, we recognize Jeff Zhu for regular service to VOLS's Elderly Project since 2017. Last year, he worked with a translator and his client's Spanish-speaking grandson to help complete her will and advance the directives through a remote execution ceremony from her apartment. And this year, we also recognize several firms and their attorneys, including Kirkland & Ellis, McGuire Woods, and Cadwalader, who were supported by VOLS to provide wills and advance directives, life planning documents in order to support frontline workers during the pandemic. Denise, tell us a little bit now about the VOLS response to the economic crisis facing our communities.
Thanks, Tommy. We heard earlier how VOLS volunteers have already secured over $1 million in cash benefits for unemployed workers since the pandemic began. Paul Weiss was the first firm to help VOLS relaunch and retool its unemployed workers project last March. I worked with VOLS to develop a webinar, training materials, and to set up a rotating hotline to advise clients seeking assistance with benefits claims and to eventually provide support with appeals hearings. This year, VOLS also recognizes a team led by one of its board members at Simpson Thacher, Bryce Friedman, including Jonathan Myers, Peter Farag, Eleanor Shingleton, and Eric Yang. They assisted clients with unemployment proceedings, including 3 New York City public school substitute teachers who initially collected benefits only to find that the government later demanded the return of these funds. The team successfully argued the cases and fought back the government overpayment claims. Beyond unemployment, several of our award winners supported small businesses facing unprecedented challenges during the pandemic. The team at Stroke, including pro bono attorneys Kevin Kernan and Carrie Cooperman, as well as non-attorneys Donna Bianchino and Alexander Chin-Suktio, helped form the Small Business Legal Relief Alliance. This alliance, along with the help of other law firms and providers, has helped over 550 small business owners and nonprofits, many women and minority-owned or run, to navigate and resolve a range of issues, including leasing, accessing loans, bankruptcy, intellectual property, and more. These are just a few of the many firms and attorneys and non-attorneys recognized for their service to unemployed workers and small businesses. Congratulations to this year's Dean's List Award winners, whose stories can be found in the program guide for today's event.
So before we wrap up, I just want to take this opportunity again to congratulate all of our honorees, to Harlene Katzman, Annie Mohan, Aisha Greene, and Erin Law. Thank you again for all of your inspiring work over this past year and for the leadership that you have shown during this time of crisis. And to all of our pro bono stars, also known as our Dean's List awardees, we are incredibly grateful for all of your partnership and really excited to continue to work with you over the next year. And of course, thank you to our board and to all of our sponsors, without whom this event would not have been possible. We hope you found the conversations today to be inspiring and energizing, and that you're all excited to continue to partner together to ensure that New Yorkers across the city have access to justice in the coming year. We hope to see you again next year, next time in person, and we wish you a great rest of the day. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.